May 1945. Europe is collapsing. The German Reich, once stretched from the Arctic Circle to the gates of Moscow, is now disintegrating by the hour. Entire armies are retreating without orders. Command structures have broken down. Loyalty to Berlin has become optional, situational, and dangerous. The war is effectively over, but no one knows how it will end. And in this vacuum, where authority dissolves and ideology fractures, one of the strangest battles in military history unfolds. Not on a beach, not in a city, but inside a medieval castle perched in the Austrian Alps. Castle Itter stands above the village of Itter, near the town of Wurgl in western Austria. Built in the 1200s, it was never meant to withstand modern warfare. Its walls were designed to repel swords and ladders, not machine guns and high-explosive shells. Yet by the final months of World War II, Castle Itter had become something uniquely dangerous. It was no longer a fortress. It was a political powder keg. The castle as a prison. In 1943, the Nazi regime repurposed Castle Itter as a special detention facility under the Dachau concentration camp system. But unlike Dachau, Auschwitz, or Buchenwald, this prison held no anonymous masses. It held VIP prisoners, men whose names carried political weight across Europe. Former French Prime Minister Édouard Daladier, former Prime Minister Paul Reynaud, General Maurice Gamelin, once Commander-in-Chief of the French Army, senior ministers, diplomats, resistance leaders, and their families. These men were not meant to be worked or exterminated. They were meant to be used. They were hostages, insurance policies for a regime that expected negotiation, not annihilation. But by May 1945, negotiation is no longer possible. Berlin has fallen. Hitler is dead. Germany's central authority has ceased to function. And when authority collapses, danger multiplies. The SS problem. As Wehrmacht units surrender or retreat, the Waffen-SS does neither. Fanatically loyal to Nazi ideology, many SS formations operate independently, no longer recognizing any chain of command except their own. They roam the countryside, executing perceived traitors, political prisoners, and anyone they believe should not survive the war. Castle Itter, filled with France's political elite, becomes a prime target. If SS units reach the castle, the prisoners will not be rescued. They will be executed. The abandonment. In late April 1945, something unexpected happens. The castle's SS guards disappear. No warning, no explanation. They flee. The prison is suddenly undefended. The prisoners are alone. Food is running out. Communications are cut. The nearest German units are unreliable or hostile. The prisoners understand the truth before anyone else does. If the SS return, there will be no mercy. A desperate escape. The prisoners decide to gamble everything on one attempt. They send a messenger. A Yugoslav prisoner volunteers to escape under cover of darkness. He slips through the forested mountains on foot, then steals a bicycle. For 2 days he rides through collapsing German territory, past retreating units, abandoned checkpoints, and SS patrols, until he finally reaches American lines. What he tells them is urgent and unbelievable. French leaders are trapped in a castle. SS units are approaching. Time is running out. Enter the Americans. The American officer who hears this message is Captain John C. Jack Lee Jr., a reconnaissance officer with the 12th Armored Division. Lee is known for ignoring caution. He operates ahead of his unit, often without explicit orders. When he hears about Castle Itter, he doesn't request permission. He makes a decision. He will go. An unexpected ally. Before Lee can move, something extraordinary happens. A German officer approaches him voluntarily. His name is Major Josef Sepp Gang. Gang is a Wehrmacht officer, not SS. Like many professional soldiers, he has grown disgusted with Nazi leadership and SS brutality. By this stage of the war, Gang is actively helping Austrian civilians resist SS reprisals. He knows Castle Itter, he knows the prisoners, and he knows what will happen if the SS arrive first. Gang offers to fight with the Americans, not as a prisoner, not as a hostage, but as an ally. Lee accepts. A force like no other. What forms next has no parallel in World War II. A joint force of 14 American soldiers, 10 German Wehrmacht troops, and Austrian resistance fighters, all united by one goal: hold Castle Itter until reinforcements arrive. They bring one Sherman tank. It is nicknamed Besotten Jenny. It will become the castle's only armored defense. Approaching the castle. On May 4, 1945, the mixed force advances through the Alps. The roads are narrow, the terrain is exposed, SS patrols are active. At any moment, the mission could collapse. But they reach Castle Itter without incident. The prisoners are stunned. Americans, Germans, standing together. The war's logic has completely broken down. Preparing for siege. They immediately prepare defenses. Windows are converted into firing positions, ammunition is distributed, escape routes are planned, but understood to be nearly impossible. The Sherman tank blocks the main gate. It is the only thing preventing a direct assault. Everyone knows what is coming. The SS will not ignore this. The SS arrives. On dawn of May 5, 1945, Waffen-SS units appear on the surrounding hills. Estimates range from 100 to 150 SS soldiers. They are well armed, they are experienced, and they have no intention of negotiating. The siege begins. The mist still hangs over the Austrian Alps. From the towers of Castle Itter, defenders spot movement in the tree line below. Dark uniforms, steel helmets, organized formations. There is no doubt who they are. Waffen-SS, the last true believers of the collapsing Third Reich. The enemy outside the walls. The SS unit approaching Castle Itter belongs to a chaotic mix of remnants, soldiers cut off from higher command, retreating westward, refusing surrender. Their objective is clear: eliminate the prisoners, erase witnesses, finish the job the Reich started. To them, Castle Itter is not a prison, it is a liability. Counting the defenders. Inside the castle, Captain Jack Lee does a rapid assessment. Total defenders: 14 U.S. soldiers, 10 German Wehrmacht troops under Major Josef Gangl, several lightly armed Austrian resistance fighters. They are outnumbered at least 10 to 1. Worse, ammunition is limited. There will be no resupply unless reinforcements arrive, and no one knows if they will. A tank with no escape. At the main gate sits the Sherman tank Besotten Jenny. It is positioned to block entry, its gun facing downhill, but there is a fatal problem. The tank has no room to maneuver. If it is disabled, it becomes a coffin. The crew knows this. They stay anyway. Unlikely combatants. Inside the castle walls stand men who were never meant to fight again. Former prime ministers of France, a former French commander-in-chief, political prisoners who once shaped Europe. But now they pick up rifles, because if the SS breaks through, there will be no mercy for anyone, civilian, soldier, or statesman. This is no longer a rescue mission. It is a last stand. Opening shots. The SS attack begins cautiously. Snipers take positions on surrounding slopes. Machine guns open fire. Bullets chip stone from walls that have stood for centuries. Castle Itter was never designed for this. There are blind spots everywhere. Lee orders his men to conserve ammunition. Every shot must count. The Sherman speaks. The Sherman tank fires first. A high explosive shell slams into the hillside. SS troops scatter. For a moment, the defenders feel something dangerous. Hope. But it doesn't last. SS adaptation. The SS quickly adjust. They pull back out of direct line of fire. Anti-tank weapons are brought forward. Panzerfausts. They know the tank is the key. Destroy it, and the castle's main gate becomes vulnerable. The first hit. A Panzerfaust streaks upward. It strikes the Sherman near the tracks. The tank shudders but holds. The crew reports damage, but the gun still works. They fire again. Another SS position disappears in smoke and rock. A castle under siege. The SS spread out. They surround the hill. Machine gun fire becomes constant. Stone walls crack. Wooden doors splinter. The defenders move constantly, shifting positions to avoid sniper fire. Inside the castle, French prisoners carry ammunition. They relay messages. They fight. This is no longer symbolic resistance. It is combat. Major Gang's choice. Major Josef Gangl moves between positions calmly. He is a German officer defending former enemies. This decision will cost him his life, but he already knows that. Gangl understands something the SS does not. The war is over. What matters now is what survives it. The Sherman falls. Another Panzerfaust hits. This one is precise. The Sherman's engine compartment erupts in flames. Besotten Jenny is disabled. The crew bails out just in time. The tank no longer blocks the gate. The SS cheer. They believe the castle will fall quickly now. They are wrong. Close quarters fighting. With the tank gone, the SS advance uphill. Rifles crack. Grenades explode against stone. American and German soldiers fire side by side. There is no confusion. There is no hesitation. Only targets. French prisoners take arms. Inside the castle, something extraordinary happens. Former Prime Minister Paul Reynaud picks up a rifle. Others follow. These men were once political rivals. Now they share firing positions. History collapses into the present moment. A deadly sniper. An SS sniper targets the castle courtyard. Anyone who crosses it risks death. Communication becomes dangerous. Major Gangl notices a French woman exposed to fire. She is trying to move between cover. Gangl runs. Major Gangl is killed. A sniper's bullet strikes him. He falls instantly. Josef Gangl dies saving a former enemy, a German officer defending French politicians against German SS troops, alongside Americans. There is no precedent for this. After the war, Austria will name a street after him. But in this moment, there is no time for mourning. Ammunition running out. By midday, the defenders are low on ammunition. Some rifles are down to single magazines. Machine guns are nearly dry. The SS know this. They prepare for a final assault. Last radio contact. Captain Lee makes one more radio call. It is weak, broken, but it gets through. He requests immediate reinforcement. Then the radio dies. Now they wait. The SS final push. The SS advance in force. They believe victory is moments away. Grenades are thrown. Ladders are raised. The castle walls are breached in multiple locations. This is the end, unless something changes.
The defenders of Castle Itter are nearly out of time. Ammunition is dangerously low. The wounded are piling up. The walls are scarred, cracked, and partially breached. The SS know it, and now they commit everything. The final SS assault begins. From the forest below, Waffen-SS troops surge forward. This is no probing attack. This is a kill run. They rush the hill in waves, firing as they advance, shouting orders, throwing grenades uphill. They expect panic. They expect collapse. Instead, they're met with controlled, deliberate fire. Americans and Germans hold the line. Captain Jack Lee moves calmly between positions. Orders are short, simple. Fire only when you see the whites of their eyes. The German Wehrmacht soldiers fight with grim determination. They know the SS will not take prisoners. Surrender is not an option. The castle courtyard becomes a death trap. SS troops breach an outer section of the wall. For the first time, they enter the castle grounds. The courtyard, once quiet and ceremonial, becomes a kill zone. Rifle fire echoes off stone, bullets ricochet wildly. The defenders fall back step by step, refusing to break. French prisoners under fire. Inside the castle, French political prisoners assist however they can. They carry ammunition, they tend to wounded, they relay messages under fire. These men once commanded armies and nations. Now they are foot soldiers in a medieval fortress, fighting for survival. The sniper returns. The SS sniper who killed Major Gangl is still active. He fires methodically. Anyone exposed is a target. Captain Lee realizes something critical. That sniper controls the battlefield. If he is not neutralized, the castle will fall. An unlikely hero. One of the French prisoners steps forward. Jean Boratreux, former French tennis champion, Olympian, Minister of Sports. He volunteers for a mission that borders on suicide. He will escape the castle, run through SS-controlled territory, and bring help. The dash for freedom. Boratreux waits for a lull. Then he runs. He sprints across open ground under fire, bullets snapping past him. He vaults over rubble, disappears into the trees. For a moment, everyone believes he is dead, but Boratreux keeps running. SS confidence grows. Inside the castle, the SS tighten the noose. They bring up heavier weapons, more ladders, more grenades. They expect surrender any minute now. They are wrong. American reinforcements move. Miles away, elements of the 12th Armored Division receive word. The message is fragmentary, confused, but clear enough. Americans are under fire, with Germans, against Germans, at a castle. It makes no sense, but the order is simple. Advance. Time stretches inside the castle. Inside Castle Itter, minutes feel like hours. Defenders ration bullets. Some rifles are down to their last rounds. Machine guns are silent. The SS press closer. Walls crumble. Doors splinter. The battle is now measured in meters. The SS breach the inner wall. SS troops force their way into the inner perimeter. This is the moment they've waited for. They believe victory is inevitable. They prepare to execute prisoners on sight. Then something changes. At first, it is faint. A rumble. Engines. Tracks. Gunfire that does not sound like German weapons. The SS pause. Confusion ripples through their ranks. American armor emerges. From the road below, American tanks emerge. Shermans, half-tracks, infantry. They open fire immediately. SS positions erupt in explosions. Machine gun nests are torn apart. The SS are caught completely off guard. The SS collapse. Within minutes, the momentum shifts. The attackers become the hunted. Some SS attempt to flee. Others surrender. Many are killed where they stand. The siege ends, not with negotiation, but with overwhelming force. Castle Itter is relieved. American troops reach the castle gates. They push inside. The defenders emerge, exhausted, wounded, alive. Americans shake hands with German Wehrmacht soldiers. French prisoners stand stunned. Against all odds, they survived. The war is over. The Battle of Castle Itter lasted less than a day, but it should never have happened at all. Days later, Germany surrenders unconditionally. Europe falls silent. The last bullets fade into history. A battle without a category. Historians struggle to classify what happened here. It was not an Allied victory. It was not a German defeat. It was something else entirely. Former enemies fighting together, against fanatics, for people who no longer mattered to the war, but mattered to humanity. What happened to the defenders? Captain Jack Lee survives the war. So do most of the American soldiers. The French prisoners return home as national symbols. Major Josef Gangl is honored posthumously by Austria. The SS attackers are tried or disappear into the chaos of the war's end. Why history forgot this battle? There were no grand offensives here, no massive armies, no strategic significance, just a castle, a handful of soldiers, and a choice. In a war defined by hatred, Castle Itter was defined by something else: solidarity. A moment that shouldn't have existed. This battle contradicts everything we expect from World War II. It was messy, unplanned, human, and that is why it matters.
May 6th, 1945. The guns around Castle Itter fall silent. Smoke drifts away from shattered walls. Spent shell casings litter the courtyard. Bodies, mostly SS, are dragged away. And standing together in the rubble are men who, only days earlier, were sworn enemies. American soldiers, German Wehrmacht troops, French prisoners once held as political trophies of the Third Reich. No one celebrates. They are too exhausted, too stunned by what they just survived. The war ends days later. Less than 48 hours after the Battle of Castle Itter, Nazi Germany formally surrenders. May 7, 1945. Reims, France. The war in Europe is over. The battle that took place at Castle Itter will be swallowed almost immediately by events far larger, louder, and more symbolic. Berlin has fallen. Hitler is dead. The Third Reich collapses. And the strangest battle of World War II quietly fades into obscurity. What happens to the survivors? The American soldiers return to their units. Captain John Jack Lee Jr., whose calm leadership held the defense together, is promoted and later serves in Korea. He never seeks fame. He rarely speaks publicly about Castle Itter. To him, it was simply a day when soldiers did their job. The German defenders face a far more uncertain future. They are not SS. They are Wehrmacht troops who openly turn their weapons against Nazi loyalists. American officers vouch for them. This matters because in the chaos after surrender, summary executions and reprisals are common. These men survive largely because American soldiers insist on their protection. Major Josef Gangl. Josef Gangl does not live to see the war's end. He is buried in Austria. Years later, the town of Urgel names a street after him. To Austrians, Gangl becomes something rare, a German officer remembered not for conquest, but for defiance. The French prisoners return home. The French VIPs are repatriated. They return as symbols of resistance, survival, and endurance. Some resume political roles, others retreat into private life. Very few speak openly about Castle Itter. The war has left them with enough memories already. Why the story disappeared? There are several reasons the Battle of Castle Itter is almost forgotten. First, it doesn't fit the narrative. World War II is remembered in absolutes: Allies versus Axis, good versus evil, clear lines. Castle Itter blurs every line. Second, there was no strategic importance, no cities captured, no divisions destroyed, no change in the war's outcome. Military historians focused elsewhere. Third, post-war politics. Germany needed to be rebuilt. The Wehrmacht's image was complicated. Stories of good Germans fighting Nazis were uncomfortable and often ignored. And finally, many participants simply stayed silent. They went home. They rebuilt their lives. They didn't think the world would care. The documents resurface. Decades later, historians begin uncovering scattered reports: American after-action logs, German local records, Austrian municipal archives. Individually, the documents seem strange,
Together, they tell a story that sounds almost fictional. A medieval castle, a handful of Americans, German soldiers fighting the SS, French prisoners under fire. At first, even historians are skeptical. Then the accounts align. The details match. The impossible becomes undeniable. Why this battle matters. Castle Itter matters not because of its scale, it matters because of its choices. Every man involved could have walked away. The Americans could have ignored the castle. The Germans could have surrendered to the SS. The French prisoners could have been abandoned. Instead, everyone involved chose action over safety. A war defined by hatred, and one exception. World War II was driven by ideology, race, nation, obedience. Castle Itter was driven by something else. Recognition. Men looked at each other and saw soldiers, not symbols. That moment, brief, fragile, and almost erased by history, is what makes this battle unique. No monument, no medals. There is no grand memorial, no major museum exhibit, no national holiday. Just a quiet castle in Austria, and a story that survived only because it was too strange to completely disappear. The final irony. The Waffen-SS believed they were fighting to the last. They believed loyalty demanded death. But in the final days of the Third Reich, it was those who rejected blind loyalty who survived, and those who clung to it who vanished. The last battle that shouldn't have happened. Castle Itter stands as the last battle of World War II in Europe, not because of dates, but because it represents something deeper. The end of unquestioned obedience, the end of ideology over humanity. History's quiet footnote. Today, Castle Itter is peaceful. Tourists walk past its walls without knowing what happened there. Most history books mention it in a sentence or not at all. But for one day in May 1945, history bent. Enemies stood together, and the war ended, not with a flag, but with a decision. World War II is remembered for its destruction, for its armies, for its horrors. But sometimes the most important stories are the ones that don't fit. Castle Itter was not supposed to exist. And yet, it did.